Let me firstly start with a short introduction to myself. My name is JoshChoi, as I mentioned, and I'm a Deputy Executive Director of MyIDAlliance, which is a nonprofit but business-driven association which is composed of around 60 different companies and institutions and organizations who are willing to apply blockchain-based, ID platform, which we call decentralized ID, to their any kind of verification process for their customers in their products and service. Okay, so let me firstly start with the three major drivers for us to come up with this decentralized ID platform for enterprise blockchain business here. Okay, firstly, well, in Korea, you first have to understand the overall environment surrounding blockchain industry. So basically, public blockchain is kind of a tough business domain because Korean government has very strict regulations on cryptocurrency, and then as you may know, public blockchain cannot work without the incentives for the participant in network by providing the reward in a cryptocurrency, which is a very, very highly regulated area. But the government has a very strong support for the development of blockchain technology itself, which naturally drive to the boosting of the enterprise consortium blockchain project, which doesn't need any cryptocurrency related node operation and governance. So since 2018, and there have been lots of government pilot projects and call for research and development of blockchain, and a lot of pilot projects which is aimed to apply blockchain for any public services. So one of the examples that we've done was to build blockchain-based custom clearance in a process, working together with the Korea Customs Service. So at that time, the more and more Korean people were purchasing a lot of goods from the international global e-commerce sites such as Amazon and Alibaba. So because of that, the volume of imported goods for the individuals has been significantly increased. And of course, it really created a lot of bottleneck in the process of custom clearances and custom service in Korea. So in order to solve this problem, we designed the enterprise blockchain, consortium blockchain solutions, in which Korea Customs Service and shipping companies and e-commerce companies and logistic companies can join as a node, so that we enable all the information of the purchased goods to be monitored in real time, so that Korea Customs Service can know already what kind of items will be coming even before they got it, so that we were able to reduce the really significant time of the processing, because that time the conventional way of custom clearance is really paper-based and manual. So we are able to find an opportunity to really digitalize all this process. As mentioned by Dennis, we're trying to make it really digitalize the economy there. But the issue was that this kind of a pilot project was not really sustainable in terms of the possibility for the companies to scale up. And then there are a lot of barriers in the real life to make the real business work. So basically, this kind of a B2B business is good, for us to see the government full support in the blockchain area. But I mean, this kind of business actually doesn't provide a really long-term sustainable business model. So we realized that we definitely need to provide the actual values which can be explained by the public, which means that we can provide enterprise blockchain solution to our clients, but that solution also should be impact on the public, customers, so that they can actually use blockchain-based service, even though they don't understand how blockchain works, even though they even don't realize whether they actually using the blockchain. So basically, we shift a little bit of our business focus from B2B to B2B2C. which means that we provide a solution, and our clients actually use our solution to enhance their service, improve their service to their actual end customers. So that's the one, some kind of a transformative environment that we are facing the time. And also, we definitely realize this transformation to digital economy, just as briefly mentioned by Dennis. So basically, in digital economy, we think the really, really crucial element is to build the trust between different stakeholders participating in digital economy. So when you want to make any kind of digital transactions, you have to have the really trustworthy information about your counterparty. So you have to make sure that this person is the right person that you want to make a contract. This person is the right person who have the really proper authority to access your service, especially in this kind of COVID epidemic. And then more and more businesses will go to really non-face-to-face business environment. So in that case, of course, it is very important for all of us who are working in the digital economy to make sure that we can build a really trust between the whole different stakeholders. So we think that also this digital economy is the key, and also the fundamental element to make a digital economy possible was to make our identification with more and more trustworthy. Instead of a really conventional way of actually proving that yourself by submitting your paper-based, card-based identification, if we can find a really digital way for us to prove that I'm the right person in the digital economy, that was really a good, really fundamental starting point. So that was the second key driver. And also accordingly, as digital economy has been evolved, also the digital identification system has been evolved as well. So in the past, in order to make sure that you are the right person to request any kind of access to your digital service, online service, and then you have to actually authenticate the user. And then currently what we do is basically we rely on reliable third party to prove that I am the right person. For example, this is why, every time you log in a different services, you are login Facebook login or Google login, which means that you've got a lot of personal information in this third party, and then you just don't necessarily have to go through all the personal authentication process, and then you just simply go through Google and Facebook. So basically, what this makes all the login services very convenient, but actually more and more information, more and more our personal information actually go to this kind of third party, and then they actually can do a lot of, they can play the game with our personal information. So now we have to think about how can we revive our ownership on our identity? How can we really make the more ownership on our identity, and how can we keep our personal information without needing to ask any third party to manage our personal information? So these are three main drivers for us to think about some decentralized ID platform to be applied for an enterprise blockchain industry. So blockchain-based digital identification platform as a DID platform, we call it ourselves MyID. So MyID is the really first kind of decentralized identifier platform in Korea, built on ICONLOOP's blockchain technology. ICONLOOP is one of the leading blockchain tech company in Korea, and it definitely helps build a really trustworthy digital economy environment, as I mentioned, by allowing the users to safely manage their ID, authentication information in their mobile phone instead of relying on multiple third parties, while facilitating the verification process in a very secure and fast way through the blockchain technology. Okay, so this is how it works. So as I mentioned, we can, so in decentralized ID platform, you can actually use your ID wallet as an app format, and you use just one ID, and then you can use for the multi-users. For example, every time you want to open a different bank account from the different banks, and you have to go through all the same process of authentication yourself, which means that you just distribute all your personal ID and your information to all the different people. So, but in this model, you don't necessarily have to do that. And also, as we use blockchain, basically we can build more strengthened security measures. And as I mentioned, we can build a really self-sovereign identification wall. So in MyID application, you basically can claim your credential, which prove that you are the right person to any issues, and they register their credentials in blockchain. And then you can use this credential for different type of verifiers. It can be e-commerce, it can be finance, it can be sharing economy, it can be retailers, autos. If they wanted to prove, if they wanted you to prove that you are above 20 so that you can buy alcohol, or if they want you to prove that you have the right to vote, or if they want you to prove that you are eligible for any kind of service, and they don't necessarily have to ask all the personal information or the complicated process, and they just can check the credentials in blockchain where your original credential was saved. So this is a little bit more detailed service flow. I'm definitely open to open my presentation to all the attendees here. So after the presentation, you guys can actually check this file. If you want, I can ask my colleagues in Criptovelliosociation Association to share my presentation here. So this is a little bit complicated picture, but basically the same. Basically, you own your identity. You keep your personal information in your mobile phone app, and you just save the credential, which proves that you are authorized. That information is saved in the blockchain, and any verifier who wants to verify you, and they just can check the credentials so that they don't necessarily ask you to take all the process of authenticating you. So these are the members of MyIDAlliance. So as for today, so we have 57 members. So basically, Shinhan Bank is the Korea's biggest retailing bank, and also we have Samsung Electronics, and also we have Yanolja, which is the biggest hotel reservation app in Korea, and also we have the Saramin, which is also Korea's #1 HR recruitment in a portal. And we have also some schools and non-profit organization. Recently, we are also having quite a lot of crypto exchanges who are always struggling to set up a really reliable KYC process. So basically, all these partners are trying to build different use cases by using the MyID platform. So these are several use cases that we're building. So for example, if you open your bank account from Shinhan Bank, which means that you already proved that you have eligibility to have a financial services. So if you wanted to open a stock account from Samsung Securities to make a trade of any kind of stocks, you don't necessarily have to go through all the personal information process. You just use this Shinhan Bank issued ID to authentication, then you can directly open a stock account without needing to provide your personal information. And also, you can actually scan your passport, your special digital passport, and save it in your MyID application. Then you can verify your ID for hotel check-in through the Yanolja app. So Yanolja has a lot of actually hotel chains in Southeast Asia. So every time you go to hotel when you check in, you don't necessarily have to submit your passport and then just let them to scan your passport. Who knows what they are going to do with your passport, because passport has a lot of information there, right? So you don't necessarily have to go through this kind of process. Once you actually prove that yourself through this thing, and then they just can check it. So in the real world, when you go to check-in desk in a hotel, you just go there and probably you can just read the QR code, and then the hotel can realize that you are the right person to make a reservation without asking you to submit the passport to compare your passport photos with you. And also any kind of university issues certificate, for example, certificate of completion of any courses or certificate of graduation of any specific schools, that can be also submitted to whenever you are applying for a job through any kind of a recruitment website, so that you can actually submit a really tamper-proof academic certificate, because it is actually saved in the blockchain, so there is no chance for anyone to make a fake graduate certificate there. So these are actually some use cases that we're building, and then mostly they would be launched in the second quarter of this year or third quarter of this year.
Okay.
And also we are building the other use cases. So one is Proof, which is blockchain-based certificate issuing platform, and also VisitMe, which is blockchain-based in building check-in services. So for example, if you are inviting someone else outside the organization, and then when they come to visit your office, and that they don't necessarily have to submit their ID at the information desk, whatever, and then they just simply download the VisitMe application, and then you just scan the QR code, and then you can go in. Because anyway, you are the only person actually received this information, invitation, so that you already proved that as a right person to meet someone else. So these are really quickly some use cases we're building. So given the limited time, I will finish my presentation here. So I'm just open to just one or few.
Josh, if you want, we have Xandra who has a question. Maybe we could open up Xandra quickly.
My question is, how in your experience the corporates are reacting within the blockchain community, taking into account the legal aspects of the data from GDPR to cyber risk and intellectual property. What in your experience is the reaction of the corporates?
Regarding our MyID platform, or just the general?
Just the general, yeah. It is first of all just the general framework.
So we have a pretty much different, personal information privacy regulatory framework compared to the Europe. So we don't have a really strict law like the GDPR. So this is how actually we are able to trace all the people's movement, especially in this current COVID epidemic, so that we are able to really trace people's movement, and we are able to have a really proactive treatment to avoid the further spread of this disease. So in a blockchain here, I think it's kind of half and half. People are, of course, the companies are a little bit sensitive to the protection or distribution of course the personal information. But this is why people also expect the blockchain technology to solve this problem. But at the same time, in general, in cultural settings in Korea, we have quite a stronger trust in the government or institutions in terms of the managing our personal information. So so I think it has a really kind of both sides of possibility.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you very much.
Alexandra, maybe I can answer this quickly too. Self-sovereign identity is also something which the EU, also Germany, is researching quite heavily on blockchain. So they have actually a couple of funding programs for startups to apply some ideas and come in with some solutions, for identities, to do ticketing, but also to do identity checks. So I think we will probably see more coming there from the government point of funded side too.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is very interesting. My question was related also to the corporates. Maybe we will. How do the corporates are reacting to this, because they have, let's say, a little bit slightly different approach. But let's go further, and maybe we can speak at the end to this topic.